Hello, everybody. Hello, Brain Trust. Hello, Mad Ones. Hello, everybody with ears. I take that back. That's too generous. Everybody with ears who is tuned into this podcast right now, hello. I can't say hello to ears that aren't here. Not all ears can hear all things at all times. They're not omniscient. Nobody has perfect ear ability. This is like the third week of August or whatever in the year 2024. Another jam-packed week of insanity before we dive into everything that matters from the last week on Earth. And again, for the record, my podcast predated Last Week Tonight with John Oliver by many years. And everybody thought they stole my podcast name when they called themselves Last Week Tonight. It's for the record, okay? Like, he's welcome to use it, but don't be accusing me of taking his bullshit, all right? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Why does he hit the desk like he's a toddler asking for more mash? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Why does he do that every time? What a weird opening line. But anyway, he's overall great. Rants a little long on one story each week, 20, 30 minutes. A little bit of a deep dive to discuss, the problems with hospice care misuse. I mean, it's important, but I feel like a 3-minute video would cover it. He says as he launches into some stories I will probably go on too long about, but such is life. In my brain, at least. I like to share something personal up top if I can each week. Had an audition for an Owen Wilson TV series this week. Didn't get it, I'm assuming, because it starts shooting in Vancouver tomorrow. So probably didn't get it. I keep wanting to quit acting. Every time I officially quit, I get a part, so I should actually quit. Hey, I quit acting. See what happens next week, because it just derails my week. My focus that already is quite lacking and focus problem filled. And then I just, focus on a thing, get excited about it, turn it in, give what I think is a very subtle and talented performance, and never hear a word about it again. You don't even get feedback. Don't even say thank you for auditioning. You just put it into the ether and never hear about it again. It's demoralizing, really, but it's the love of the craft that I have very little love for still. This week's episode is brought to you by my underpants. My underpants. They're the underpants that I wear. A lot of podcasts are sponsored by MeUndies, but, that sounds like it's being spoken by an Australian child. Where are MeUndies? Or maybe like a British child. Where are MeUndies, mum? Australian would be more like a, where are MeUndies? It's kind of a deep voice for a child, but I don't do a child Australian. You're asking a lot of me. I also got to play in the first annual Brody Stevens Memorial softball game. Dear old friend, comedian gone way too soon. Past podcast guest, comedian, audience warm-up guy extraordinaire. It's a fascinating episode if you want to listen back into the archives. And I was honored to be able to give a speech at his annual memorial at the park in Reseda, where he came up here in the valley. 818 till I die. And then I was told I was the first overall draft pick in the softball game, so I felt pressure to deliver. And I played great. I haven't moved much in recent years. And so being able to actually go 4 for 6, batting .666 with 2 singles, a double, and a triple, I was proud. It has now been 3 days I cannot move very well. Everything in my body hurts and is sore. But I was eating sunflower seeds, spitting them out like a pro baseball player. Even though, granted, there were 2 children under 5 playing with us as well, that I kind of conveniently hid from social media to make it seem like it was more of a competitive sport. My team did win like 20 or 30 to 1 or 2, so that was pretty good. And I had to leave just a minute before the end of the game, maybe like 10 minutes before the game ended, because it went very long, and I had to go headline a show in Valencia as I'm preparing for my 3rd-hour special called Endings, filming in LA on September 21st. If you'd like to get tickets to be in the audience at the beautiful Hotel Cafe, it'll run just like a normal stand-up show. You're not going to be there for many hours. There's 2 tapings, 7 and 10 o'clock, Saturday, September 21st. BenGlebe.com for tickets, or my Instagram link in bio. I would be quite touched to have you there. That would be very nice. Get them now because they will sell out. But it's time to cover the news of this last week on Earth. And I mean, so much came at us. I always start with the most important, most impactful story. Breakdancing will not return to the 2028 LA Olympic Games, making a very brief and very stupid debut in the 2024 Paris Games. Why was that ever a sport? I ask that because it's not a sport. A type of dancing is not a sport. What's going to be in the 2028 Games taking its place? Twerking? The way she is bouncing that bubble butt while having that great nasty face on her face. That stank face that kind of says like, this face is stank, but also it's a bit ironic. And I know I'm doing this to be kind of funny, but also sexy, but funny. I give it a 10. She's going to get a 10 from the judges, there's no doubt. Look at that bounce. I can see it happening. But very dumb. A lot of people performed their breakdancing in very dumb ways. That's Henry in the background agreeing. I agree, Henry. Totally agree. It was very stupid. There will be several new sports in 2028 in the LA Olympics, including flag football. Sorry, that's not a sport. If you do it at camp, it's not a sport. If you do it for fun, it's not a sport. If you do it because you're afraid of getting hurt in the real version of the sport, it's not a sport. Flag football? What are they going to do, touch football next? Dozens of sports have been added, removed, and sometimes added back into the Olympics over the course of Olympic history. Polo. I think water polo probably is a sport, as George Carlin once said. Water polo, great sport, but extremely cruel to the horses. Golf, fair enough. Karate, who cares? You'd think Cobra Kai would bring that back. Tug of war has been an Olympic sport. Tug of war? Talking about camp sports. Could you imagine winning an Olympic medal and having people be excited when they know they're in the presence of an Olympic medal winner, and then having to share with them? I mean, they're like, what sport? And you're like, it's not about what sport it is. It's about being Olympic, caring about country and Olympic. They're like, come on, what sport was it? Tug of war. Me and a couple of my buddies were on one side of the rope, and we pulled the other guys over to us, and now we're champions and have a gold medal that some people work their lives for, but we're just good at tugging stuff. So, very stupid summer sports that ESPN reminded me were sports. This week was all about accusations of communism and beautiful sketches and which presidential candidate looks prettier, Trump or Kamala. Kamala unveiled some economic plans, including trying to stop price gouging, that immediately Trump and then all of MAGA and then all of Republicans and then all of independents and libertarians that pretend they're not Republicans and aren't going to vote that way but obviously are like, see, Kamala wants communism. No, she does not. She doesn't want communism. Why is trying to control markets okay when it only benefits the rich to these people? Why is it okay to bail out banks but not to bail out people who need money, who need assistance? Why is it okay to give oil subsidies to multi-billion-dollar generating oil companies but not to poor people or lower middle class people who could use the money? No, it's better to do socialism and communist approaches when we waste the money completely for people who don't need it, to make our profits soar a little bit higher. It's nonsensical. A little bit more detail on that later in the old pod. But Trump was obsessed. He did his Twitter space thing with Elon Musk. Huge technical problems on a tech platform, and it's just audio. Imagine if they threw video in there. All hell would break loose. And Trump went off about the Time magazine cover, about Kamala's moment with a sketch of her, and he said essentially, look at this sketch. She looks so pretty, like the most gorgeous movie star on earth. And also looked a lot like my wife, Melania. A lot like my wife and the prettiest movie star on earth. Okay, I wish I could have that sketch artist. This is something that Trump actually said. And then in a rally later in the week, changed his tune on that and said, they say that she's got one advantage over me, that she's very beautiful, very beautiful. But I think I'm much better looking than Kamala. I'm much better looking. I look great. I'm a much better looking person. This is what he said at a rally, and the crowd goes nuts. He's just a comedian. Just go on tour, dog. Play MSG and get out of our lives in a serious way. Everybody wins. You do what you love. You'll make way more money doing that than being president with the $400K a year you make at that crappy job. You'd clean up, dude. Think of the merch sales alone. You're the king of merch. Do that shit. Please, I beg of you, for the life of humanity, for the love of humankind. George Clooney told Quentin Tarantino to fuck off this week, essentially. He's pissed because apparently Tarantino in some interview was talking about today's movie stars, and someone brought up George Clooney, and Tarantino said, well, he's not a movie star. They're like, what do you mean? And they're like, and then Tarantino's like, try to name a movie that he's starred in that was like a big hit, even this millennium. And how dare you say that about George Clooney? He was obviously you know him from in recent time. He played in the the Brother Art Thou one from the 90s. That was this millennium, right? If you define it broadly. He did the Tequila. Casamigos was a great movie, and then he played the worst Batman. Remember that? Remember when he was the worst Batman? That makes him a big movie star currently, even though it doesn't. So our podcast has always brought to you by Casamigos Tequila, the only tequila owned by a movie star who's so focused on the taste and flavor of this tequila that he literally does not focus on his movie career whatsoever. Please use promo code no longer movie star for a discount on Casamigos. It brings it down to full price. And I got sidetracked in my ad read earlier for our main sponsor, My Underpants, the actual underpants that I wear. Use promo code GLEEB undergarments for 22% off of the normal length price, the normal price. Biden just gave his DNC speech. The Democratic Convention was supposed to be the headliner, accepting the nomination, except he, had several strokes and forgot how to speak during that debate, and then it all imploded for him. And thank goodness, because now the Democrats have a chance to win. His speech was great. For the first time in a long time, he was able to read at least off of prompter pretty clearly. I liked the speech a lot. Overall, a couple issues, but I liked it overall. Beautiful thing he said. He said, folks, I'm going to be the best volunteer for the Kamala Walls campaign you've ever seen. That was really sweet and humble. Really nice. He said he's not mad at the people who forced him to push out, to leave office. He kind of said that under applause, but I heard it. The only critique really I have of the speech is, because it was very cool of him just to step down and so full-throatedly endorse and then help out the Harris campaign, because he truly does seem to care about the country, even though for a minute there he was trying to resist it, and I did my best to encourage him through logic and obviousness and just clips of his own self. Of him own self speaking wrong with cognitive decline, brain own self, he say. But it was a problem. He stepped down, he did the right thing. In the speech, though, even in a teleprompter read speech, no less than 300 times does he say serious things and say, I'm not joking. He'd be like, oh, can you imagine China taking over, folks? I'm not joking now. He's like, everybody thought Putin said Kyiv would fall within 3 days, and now 2 years later, the war is still going. This isn't a joke, folks. I'm being serious. Are there people who hear that and they're like, wait, he's kidding, right? I mean, why does he always think people think he's joking? He's not a comedian. Trump's the comedian. It's not joking around. This isn't hyperbole, folks. He said it's not hyperbole many times. No one thinks it's hyperbole either. You're just reading your thoughts here. The thoughts written for you by others who think your thoughts for you. But overall, good speech. Why are celebrities injecting salmon sperm into their face? LA Magazine asks. I don't know the answer to that, but they're doing it. Of course, the two leading celebrities doing this, creating this trend, as always, Kim Kardashian and Jennifer Aniston. They're promoting this new Hollywood age prevention regimen, being touted as cutting-edge beauty treatment that Kim K said in an episode of her Hulu Kardashian series, just casually dropping the line, "I got a salmon sperm facial with salmon sperm injected into my face," marking who knows what number of species now that probably have had their sperm on her face. That's conjecture. And that was mean of me to say, but also, I mean, there's at least two probs. Salmon plus humans. This is not my place. We haven't all done. We understand. I don't judge it. I think it's great. More power to you. We need people that are willing to, take one for the team. I'm just saying. It's odd to put the sperm of a salmon. Like, probably better to stick to your own species. Is my only major point here. Jennifer Aniston also said she had sperm injected into her face, telling Vanity Fair she's willing to experiment with all the crazy beauty fads. When she heard about it, she first said, "Are you serious? How do you get salmon sperm?" That's the worst Jennifer Aniston impression possible. "How do you get salmon sperm?" she asks. Turns out it's not easy. Here's my guess, by the way. You jerk off a salmon. You just make that salmon feel real good until the salmon goes, woo, woo, woo. And all of a sudden it's on your face. Talk about swimming upstream. Am I wrong? I hope I am. But it turns out I'm not far off. What you have to do is gently massage the fish's abdomen until the sperm is released naturally. So you literally are basically just masturbating the fish. The best results typically come from chum salmon or salmon trout, experts say. It's a good chum to give you their sperm like that. The procedure doesn't come cheap, about $500 a shot, so these here salmon are high price, call girls, and call boys, and call fish. The fish that keep on giving. It promises to boost skin regeneration and stimulate new collagen production, because the polynucleotides in the salmon sperm act as a way to rob celebrities of their money. In the Elon Musk, Donald Trump Twitter space, where also Trump apparently didn't have his dentures in, or they were coming loose throughout the whole talk, as I have a list, but his list got pronounced more and more and more and more throughout the whole thing. He also said the following sentence when talking about Putin. "We would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I said to Vladimir Putin, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it." And I told him things that what I would do. And he said, "No way." And I said, "Way." And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He says to Musk that Putin said no way, and I said way. I love that the level of discourse in our country and in our world, from our leaders to other world leaders, is literally that of Garth and Wayne from Wayne's World. No way. And I said, way? Shawing. Really, the thought and sound effect that happens in Trump's head whenever he sees Putin is shawing. Because he's attracted to him sexually. That's the joke I was making there. But a serious joke with truth behind it. Henry agrees. Henry definitely agrees. Evangelicals for Harris. Great ad released by the Lincoln Project, making Trump just seem like the fake religious man that he is. Shows Billy Graham, the great reverend, saying you have to ask God for forgiveness, and then Trump being asked by Frank Luntz years ago, "Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?" And Trump goes, "It's a tough question. It's a tough question. I'm very popular with evangelicals, and I just don't bring God into that." You don't bring God into your prayers or into asking for forgiveness? What are you using God for? Oh, I remember. For political gain. That's right. I almost forgot for a moment. Do you got $500 a month? Well, good news for you. You can rent a living computer made of human parts. Or, get salmon sperm on your face, either, whichever one you want to do. But science keeps advancing in strange and maybe unnecessary ways. Live science reports artificial intelligence systems even those as sophisticated as ChatGPT, depend on the same silicon-based hardware that has been the bedrock of computing since the 1950s. But what if computers could be molded from living biological matter? Scientists with too much time on their hands asked. Researchers wary of AI's ballooning demands for data storage and energy. That's your worry? Just the data storage, not the end of humanity? More on that later, I guarantee you, in this very episode. Are focusing on a growing field known as biocomputing. This approach uses synthetic biology, such as miniature clusters of lab-grown human cells called organoids, to create computer architecture. Biocomputing pioneers include Swiss company Finalspark, or as they probably for sure pronounce it, Finalspark. Here's the Finalspark. We create computers that are part human. What could go wrong? Earlier this year debuted its Neuro platform, a computer platform powered by human brain organoids that scientists can rent over the internet for $500 a month. Finalspark seeks an environmentally sustainable way to support AI. Quote, our principal goal is artificial intelligence for 100,000 times less energy. But human brain, oops, sorry about that noise. I'm going to edit that out. 2132. But 100 times more brain capital, I'll tell you that much. Even though it's fake brain, so I guess fine. Than what is currently required energy-wise to train state-of-the-art generative AI, Jordan says. From me, that's not Michael Jordan. He's retired. Neuro platform uses a series of processing units hosting 4 spherical brain organoids each. Every 0.5 millimeter wide organoid is connected then to 8 electrodes, little electrical connectors that electrically stimulate the neurons within the living sphere. Those electrodes also link the organoids to conventional computer networks, so we still got those. It's not all human-powered, fake human-powered. The neurons are selectively exposed to the feel-good neurotransmitter dopamine to mimic the human brain's natural reward system. Literally, it connects it to a dopamine hit that powers it. How wild is that? These twin setups, positive dopamine rewards and electrical stimulation, read salmon sperm, train the organoid's neurons, prompting them to form new pathways and connections, much in the same way a living human brain appears to learn. If perfected, they say, this training could eventually allow organoids to mimic silicon-based AI and serve as processing units with functions similar to today's CPUs, central processing units, and GPUs, graphics processing units, brought to you by 50 Cent, aka G units. Finalspark says. However, living brains, of course, do die eventually. Finalspark's organoids only survive for an average of around 100 days, and that's big progress from their original experiment, which was just a few hours. So already they are exponentially growing in capacity. Of course, there's, as always with AI-type things, an ongoing bioethical debate, and anything that crosses between human and computer. A bioethical debate over whether many brains could gain consciousness. They're seeking philosophers and researchers with cultural background to help us answer these ethical questions, but so glad they're doing it before answering those questions. I'm so glad they're diving right into creating human cell-powered computers to link up with AI and ruin all of us. More on that, like I said, in a little bit. North Korea tourism is back, baby. CBS News reports. Tourists will soon be able to travel once again to North Korea. According to 2 Chinese-based tour operators, the Hermit Kingdom will soon reopen one city to foreign tourists after nearly 5 years of border closures due to COVID-19 and also being just a creepy sort of paranoid, closed-off place full of starving people that are being starved by their corrupt leader, but also blame it on COVID. Visitors will be allowed to travel to the northern mountainous city of Samjiyon, starting in December, according to the BBC News. Quote, having waited for over 4 years to make this announcement, Koryo Tours is very excited for the opening of North Korean tourism once again. Koryo Tours told the BBC that North Korean officials have allowed tourists from any country except South Korea, where they can go straight to hell, to join the trips they offer. The United States, of course, bans its citizens from traveling to North Korea unless you're a great legendary rebounder with multi-rainbow-colored Skittles hair. Dennis Rodman reference, dated, and I'm sorry. He did go to North Korea. I remember he became good buddies with Kim Jong-un. North Korea is said to be building what it called a socialist utopia in Samjian, a city right near the Chinese border that will include a model of highly civilized mountain city. It'll be the first of those in its kind. Normally mountain people really aren't known for their great civility. They're known for having spears and saying to you, "No, come here. I have spear. I live in mountain. You come near me. I squeeze abdomen of salmon and eject sperms onto your face as deterrent." Well, that's the way it goes down a lot of times, But apparently they're going to have a very different vibe in this mountain city, highly civilized, with new apartments, hotels, a ski resort, commercial, cultural, and medical facilities. Reuters reported. While the people go hungrier on account of those extra expenses. People who aren't doing this, fake show city there in Chamchimchon. I'm sorry, I said it wrong again. It's Samjinyon. Chamchimchon is my best friend from high school who took weird photos of me with a fisheye lens and then tortured me with them. So that was not very nice of him to do. Kamala Harris unveils populist policy agenda, like I mentioned earlier, with $6,000 credit for newborns, among other things. Vice President Kamala Harris on Friday unveiled an aggressive populist economic agenda to an enthusiastic but more intimate crowd, providing the most detailed vision yet of her governing priorities since becoming the Democratic Party's nominee officially, virtually, even though happening this week. Officially. A little bit of a pivot from her raucous rallies that have been what her campaign's been all about in her 1-month-old nascent campaign. The VP wanted just about 250 people there to allow her to explain these new economic policies that she came up with before doing any interviews, because you can't do interviews if you don't know what you stand for. It's one of the main rules of politics. Although you actually can, because you can just talk around anything, but eventually you need to have some base to say a couple sentences for real and then segue off of things into whatever you wanted to talk about. The goal, though, is very noble: to lower costs for American families. And this hopefully is now a new phase where the campaign will be actually talking about policy and not just repeating the same stump speech to huge audiences. She said, quote, "Together we will build what I call an opportunity economy. Quote, everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, has an opportunity to build wealth for themselves and their children. The most striking standout proposals to be discussed were the elimination of medical debt for millions of Americans. Amazing if you have medical debt. Biden administration got rid of a lot of college debt, student loan debt. It's pretty pissed right now. People without medical or student loan debt, they're like, can I get a bump? What about healthy, uneducated debt that I've got? No relief for you. But still, this helps a lot of people. The first ever ban on price gouging for groceries and food. Good idea, especially during COVID. A lot of food places were skyrocketing their prices up to take advantage of people in need. Of course, people, like I said at the top of the podcast, are calling this communism, people who don't want to actually be accurate. There's not price controls. There's not across markets for no reason telling people what they have to set prices for. It's just that you can't gouge people. It's just common sense. And again, the entire economy is part capitalist and part socialist. So let's stop fear-mongering, okay? A cap on prescription drug costs for all people. A $25,000 subsidy for first-time home buyers. That would have been nice when I bought my home. Shit, can it be retroactive? That'd be nice. And a child tax credit that would provide $6,000 per child to families for the first year of a baby's life. The second this plan was announced, Nick Cannon screamed in the streets, "Woohoo, I'm a billionaire!" I'm sorry for the Nick Cannon joke. Maybe it's obvious, but also fun. Fun to do. Trump has been making increasingly crazy claims. The Washington Post reports, but anybody with eyes is fully aware of. He had a great one last week where he said that Harris's rally crowds didn't exist, and literally nobody was there, saying, "Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it, and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers caps, but they didn't exist. She's a cheater and had nobody waiting, and the crowd looked like 10,000 people. Same thing is happening with her fake crowds at her speeches, despite the fact that it was real. It was documented by many press outlets and many regular people in that crowd. But Trump just wants to create the impression, the illusion, that it could be AI'd so that he can now deny every reality and is setting us all up to not accept election results, not accept negative things you see about him, to accept negative things you see about her, just to muddy the waters. Again, more on that a little bit later. He also has claimed, here's a list of a bunch of other ones just from recently that Trump has said insane claims. He thought Biden prepared to have the FBI assassinate him when they raided Mar-a-Lago for those documents. Not at all true. The warrant did say you have the authority to use lethal force if your life is imminently in danger. That's standard in all warrants, practically and practically. I said practically because it relates to Trump. And he a prick. Do you get it? Democrats' messaging is to blame for the assassination attempt on Trump. He's been trying to put that line, as did, I reported last week, Piers Morgan and Ben Shapiro, blaming me, among others, for comparing Trump to Hitler. Again, I remind you only an account of him using Hitler's language and embracing white supremacists and saying Nazis are very fine people and stuff like that, that I hate to break it to you, actually is very dangerous and scary, and we're saying it as a warning. But okay. Feel how you will about it. He said that Biden faked COVID. Does anybody believe Biden really had COVID? He wanted to get out of this race after the debate and pretended he had COVID. He had COVID. The moment he announced that they canceled an event last second, this was not planned. Trump said he went down in a helicopter with former San Francisco Governor Willie Brown, who used to date Kamala Harris, and as it was going down, he tells me terrible things about Kamala. Yeah, I'm sure as they were worried about their lives, possibly ending shortly, he started talking shit to Trump about his ex. Turns out Willie Brown wasn't even on the helicopter. Former LA City Council member Nate Holden was. So Trump just confuses black people. And Nate Holden put out a statement saying, I guess we all look alike to him, but I'm the tall black guy from LA. He's the short black guy from San Francisco. He said that Biden will try to reclaim the Democratic nomination at the DNC, even though Biden had already released his pledged delegates. Biden's delegates are brought to you by My Underpants. Pledged delegates to the DNC. And Trump's comments came after Harris had officially secured the nomination in a virtual roll call vote. So he's just losing his damn mind. He's cognitively impaired. He's not qualified to lead. And then, of course, said Harris only recently identified as black while speaking to the National Association of Black Journalists conference recently, saying, quote, she was always of Indian heritage. She was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. And now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? Either way, it's very offensive to either community. You're offensive to all communities, bro. You identify as orange since you started painting yourself a long time ago. She's always identified as both. It's something called being mixed race. Have you heard of it? You've probably blocked it out of your bigoted mind, but it's a real thing. And your accusations are offensive and stupid, as are you. So that at least is on brand. He said his Jan 6 crowd was bigger than MLK's crowd for his I Have a Dream speech. He's now bragging about his crowd size at the speech that launched the insurrection against our nation to not certify the election. The election he still claims was stolen. That is still active treason in my mind against our nation because it gives comfort and aid to our enemies who want to sow discord in our country and weaken our system of government and weaken our democracy that Trump does every day, which is why you cannot support him despite any individual issue. The actual nation existing is more important. But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong on that. And for the record, the National Park Service estimated King's speech drew 250,000 people, 250,000. And according to photos and video, it looks like Trump's crowd on Jan 6 was around 53,000 people. Many of them traitors, by the way. Other countries are emptying their prisons and sending criminals to the U.S., Trump claimed. The prison population, this is a quote, prison population all over the world is at its lowest point it's been in many decades because they're dumping their prisoners into our country. 100% not true. No evidence of that whatsoever. Democrats want to allow killing babies after birth, a Republican talking point forever. Not true. Literally based on one inartful statement from one governor years ago who talked about there were some terrible medical situations when after birth there's a terrible defect and the baby's going to die shortly, that doctors have to make that horrible decision to put the baby out of its misery. It almost never happens, and no one's in favor of it. We can all agree, even third trimester abortions, I think it's a pretty good line we can all land on, shouldn't happen except when it's the life of the mother or the life of the baby on the line. So what are we arguing about? Stop trying to create cultural wedge issues to divide us based on lies. Just say your policies. Stop attacking disingenuously what the other side says and twisting the facts. Just say you want to give tax cuts to billionaires, and I don't want women to have the rights they've always had in this country. I want to be able to decide for them if they have babies or not. Just say that. Be honest about how horrible you are. And then, a week after Trump falsely accused the Harris campaign of using AI to fabricate campaign images, he appears to have done just that. Over the weekend, Trump shared a pair of posts on his social network, Truth Social, filled chock full of lies. The irony couldn't be greater, and it was quite intentional, obviously. That included AI-generated images, one depicting a hammer and sickle Russian flag over a Soviet-style Harris rally. Another showing young women in Swifties for Trump t-shirts. On Sunday, he posted the Harris image to X, and on Monday sent an email to supporters calling it, quote, the photo Kamala doesn't want you to see. How insane and disingenuous. He later then reposted some image of Taylor Swift saying she endorses Trump and said, I accept. And of course, that's fake, and this is going to anger her, and she's going to come out, probably, my prediction, and endorse Harris in the coming months, and that could help swing the election. So Trump just doesn't have foresight. But what's noteworthy, this article mentions, isn't just that Trump is turning to generative AI to blur the truth. It's the casual, almost mundane way he's using it so far. Not as a sophisticated weapon of deception, because the images weren't particularly believable, but just as another tool in his rhetorical arsenal. The distinction between, and I apologize I don't have the source of this article written down, I should have had it. But the distinction between AI memes and deepfakes might seem trivial at first. Both uses of the technology serve to smear political rivals and muddy the informational waters. I think it's The Atlantic, maybe. And muddy the informational waters. Both also contribute to the so-called liar's dividend, in which the proliferation of fakes and falsehoods makes it easier for people to dismiss the truth as a fabrication. As Trump did when he suggested Harris had AI'd her genuine photo of that large crowd at her airplane in Michigan. The liar's dividend, a great new X bio for Trump. Now that he's back on X. Donald Trump, the liar's dividend is in my soul. Even as leading AI image tools such as OpenAI's DALL-E 3 and Midjourney have sought to prevent users from generating images that could be associated with political misinformation, Elon Musk's X last week debuted a new version of its Grok AI tool that has few such limitations. Of course, Elon Musk wants to draw people to his overpaid-for social network, so he's giving people on that site access to AI that can generate political misinformation with a much lower threshold for rejecting the request than all these other companies. Dangerous. Very, very dangerous. As Mike Caulfield, an information literacy expert and an author of the book Verified, put it in a recent blog post, quote, the primary use of misinformation is not to change the beliefs of other people at all. Instead, the vast majority of misinformation is offered as a service for people to maintain their beliefs in face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Whether playing pretend in this way will help or hurt Trump at the polls in November is unclear, but if his plan B is to question the results of an election, he's for sure going to do that if he loses, obviously, by the way, and you're very blind if you don't realize that. A supporter base accustomed to living in fantasy land could come in handy. Exactly the point. And another strange twist for the right, and for reality for all of us, and not knowing what's right and wrong anymore, far-right Trumpers / anti-Semites like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes are now turning on Trump for not being far-right enough. They're, of course, not blaming their dear leader Trump. They're blaming his team, his strategists, and we all know he doesn't listen to them and makes these decisions on his own, but they're upset that he's tacking to the center to try to go more mainstream and not widely and openly embracing Project 2025, not more widely and openly embracing these extreme plans that they want him to institute, like full immigration bans, etc. Oh, and a new video of a key Project 2025 architect, Russell Vought, also a former Trump cabinet member, surprise, 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 confirms Trump has personally had talks with Vought about his work behind Project 2025, and that Trump gave him his blessing, according to these reports. More AI craziness, I promised you? Sure. California has weakened its bill to prevent AI disasters before the final vote, taking advice from an AI company. TechCrunch reports. California's bill to prevent AI disasters, SB 1047, has faced opposition from many people in Silicon Valley, the article reports. But today, California lawmakers bent slightly to that pressure, adding in several amendments suggested by AI firm Anthropic and other opponents. The bill still aims to prevent large AI systems, quote, from killing lots of people or causing cybersecurity events that cost over $500 million by holding developers liable. However, the bill now grants California's government less power to hold these AI labs to account. So what does the bill do now? Most notably, the bill no longer allows California's Attorney General to sue AI companies for negligent safety practices before a catastrophic event has occurred. That's what Anthropic, the AI company, suggested. You're not allowed to sue them to stop something that seems obvious it will cause a catastrophic event. Do you understand? You have to wait until after the catastrophic event happens. They can seek injunctive relief, requesting a company cease a certain operation it finds dangerous, but can only sue them after it does cause a catastrophic event. How insane is that? However, the bill still creates the Board of Frontier Models, the core of the FMD, and places them inside the existing Government Operations Agency. The board is actually a little bit bigger now with 9 people instead of 5, but the Board of Frontier Models will still set compute thresholds for covered models, issue safety guidance, and issue regulations for auditors. But that's got nowhere near the teeth needed. Senator Wiener also amended the bill so AI labs no longer need to submit certifications of safety test results under penalty of perjury. Now they can just submit public statements outlining their safety practices with no criminal liability. How? How do you do it? How do you get convinced? The AI companies are like, we don't want to turn in a certification that we actually did a safety study. We're just going to say a public statement saying we believe this is safe and you can't sue us. Okay, that's a fair compromise. According to whom? That's an insane compromise. The bill also now has more lenient language around how developers ensure their AI models are safe. The bill now requires developers to provide, quote, reasonable care that AI models do not pose a significant risk of causing catastrophe instead of the, quote, reasonable assurance the bill required before. So now we gave reasonable care not to kill a bunch of people with this AI model. But we messed up. Instead of what already sounds too weak, which is reasonable assurance. They can't even promise their reasonably, not assurance, not guarantee, reasonable guarantee. Reasonably, we tried to promise this. Even that was too strong for these people intent on developing their technology as fast as possible, clearly for sheer financial gain without taking into account safety for humanity, as if that even matters anymore. And clearly it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, Henry's upset about that too. As he should be. As he absolutely should be. He always chimes in at the right moments because he knows when humanity is in danger, he must speak out. Henry speaks out, yet the government agencies don't? It's wild. While the bill has faced significant opposition from U.S. congressmen, renowned AI researchers, big tech, and venture capitalists, the bill has flown through California's legislature with relative ease. They could have passed this bill. The amendments are likely to appease opponents now and present to Governor Newsom a less controversial bill he can sign without losing support from the AI industry that he has said he wants to support in California. And I get you need the business from it, but not at the cost of humanity, but whatevs. Maybe you do. Maybe you need it so bad, let humanity be damned. I'm on the fence about humanity anyway, I guess. Maybe it could go either way. I just don't want this podcast's title to come literally true, but whatever, you know. And now, in a less important AI story, some actors will now allow AI to replicate their voices for advertisement under a new union agreement, Forbes reports. SAG-AFTRA, the largest Hollywood actors union, has reached a deal that will allow actors to sell the rights to replicate their voices using artificial intelligence to advertisers on a brand-by-brand basis. Only a year after use of AI in the film industry helped spark the actors' strike that lasted nearly 4 months that I was out there picketing on behalf of when I could. Through the new agreement, actors can allow certain brands to replicate their voices using AI for audio ads with pre-approved scripts. SAG saying this streamlined process allows performers to generate income while maintaining full control over their brand and likeness. Okay, fine, but how about just have the actors do their real voice live for recording sessions? They get to approve a computer-generated version of their voice? Great, I'm glad you got the approval, but just have the actor perform for you. Why are they so intent on saving? They don't pay us that well. They're not saving that much. Granted, AI, it's practically free. They're still going to have to pay something to the artist for approving these scripts and using their likeness. You're saving pennies. And you're taking people out of work and removing the performance from performance art. And therefore really removing the art once computers are doing it as well. So performance arts become just 2 dashes, 2 blank nothings. That's what you want. Same thing happened in the writer's strike. This was a major point in that strike as well, and we lost on both badly. Writers ultimately reached a deal saying AI could not be used to write or rewrite scripts and protects writers from having their scripts used to train AI without their consent. But they can get consent from writers, and then they can use their scripts to train AI. At least the writers' union did better and got the provision that AI cannot be used to write or rewrite scripts currently. But that'll be renegotiated, and writers will have already given their consent to train AI with it, and then screenwriters will be replaced as well. Those who think they won't be able to write human-level scripts really over credit how amazing most scripts are. Most movies are shit, with all respect to writers and actors and directors and producers. And computers could definitely write it. And already AI is really great at doing stuff. Just this week, everybody's posting, I did it as well, my Instagram story. Let AI roast your Instagram profile. I put that prompt in. Within 1 second, it very hurtfully and funnily roasted my Instagram. Within a second. With like pretty good comedic slams in there. You don't think in 5 years it's going to be able to write touching, moving scripts, taking into account all of the scripts of the past? Of course it will. So, we're in big trouble with AI already getting out of control. And this is the nascency of it. It's the very beginning. If that's what nascency means, I'm not positive, but I think so. And we're just letting it happen. We need regulation on this, and we're not going to get it. Several big-name celebrities have already come forward in the last year to deny their involvement in advertisements that appear to use their name, likeness, and voice. Tom Hanks said he had nothing to do with advertisements for a dental plan that were circulating online using an AI version of him. Everybody knows Tom Hanks doesn't have his own teeth. CBS News anchor Gayle King last year said she was not involved with a weight loss firm named Artipet that manipulated an existing video of her to make it seem like she was promoting it. Gayle King also admitted that she's never actually met Oprah, and that whole friendship has been AI. I made that up, but I could see it. Steve Harvey and Taylor Swift, unlikely couple, were among the celebrities whose likeness was reportedly being used to promote Medicare scams online. Do you think Taylor Swift is promoting Medicare? I've got Steve Harvey's mustache to sell you. And Luke Combs, Miranda Lambert, Garth Brooks, and other country stars had their images used to promote weight loss gummies on Facebook and Instagram. I don't know that I would go to Garth Brooks for my weight loss tips. He's kind of gone up and down Oprah style weight-wise. But a weight loss gummy does sound good. I love gummies. I like candy. If candy can make me lose weight, sign me up. Plus, apparently, Miranda Lambert, Luke Combs, and Garth Brooks are endorsing it, so I'm on board. And our last story before the thunder round here. Hackers may have stolen your social security number. Here's how to check and protect. Apparently, most Americans, if not all, have had their social security number stolen. And the way to check and protect it is to don't check and to do nothing. I've had my data hacked and stolen twice in the last year, gotten letters saying, you can sign up for free credit protection, blah, blah. I haven't done it. I don't really even care. Maybe I'm stupid, but let's be honest, none of you are taking action either. So in a moment, it's time to bring this puppy down with just a couple of very odd stories, as we often do, to bid our farewells. But again, reminder, September 21st, I'm filming my third ever hour stand-up special. It's called Endings at Hotel Cafe, beautiful venue in Hollywood. Tickets at hotelcafe.com or benglebe.com or my Instagram bio. You can subscribe. If you subscribe to this podcast, please do rate and review. Give us 5 stars if you love it. Write some nice things. Share it with some friends so we can expand out there and get some real advertisers in addition to our very real advertisers of my underwear and whatever other thing I talked about earlier. That was totally real, and you believe in it. And we'll support that brand. You can watch my last special, The Mad King, on YouTube, or my first special, Neurotic Gangster, on Amazon Prime, my game show, Idiot Test, on Pluto TV, on the Game Show Central channel. They're adding more and more episodes of our 210 episodes there. A lot of great stuff. I'll also be performing, if you can't make September 21, at the Hollywood Improv on September 8th, Sunday, running Endings, the Improv Lab. I'll be in San Diego, the Madhouse Comedy Club, September 6 and 7, 2 shows a night, running my whole special. The Ice House in Pasadena, September 13th, a Friday night, running it in the big room, the legendary room. Running it in Ventura County at a tiki bar, trying to run it in big venues and small so that I can make sure it's strong as can be and sharpen up the little loose edges. On the 17th of September, get tickets to one of these. Come out and support Flappers this coming Friday, the 23rd of August. I'll be performing it. You have a few chances left to see it if you can't make the taping, but please do prioritize the taping if you can. That's what I'm doing. And on that note, it's time for the Thunder Round. Telegram's founder reveals he has 100 kids in 12 countries, plans to open source his DNA, blah, 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 Nick Cannon joke. I hit you twice with the Nick Cannon joke. I said I wouldn't, and I did. Move over, Tom Ford and Dior. Hellman has dropped a mayonnaise-inspired fragrance, according to BoleraAlert.com. In an interesting collab, Titans quarterback Will Levis has teamed up with Hellman's Mayonnaise to create the world's first ever mayonnaise-inspired fragrance, Will Levis No. 8. This fall, you can smell like the loved and sometimes hated sandwich spread. I'm out. I think I'm withdrawing from society, my friends. The world has gone mad. That's why we're the mad ones, so we can at least own the madness and create our own version of it. Which reminds me, by the way, I forgot one important plug to the Big Glebers and all of us, to the Mad Ones and all of us, to the Friends with Benefits, is this coming Sunday. I'm doing a Glebe Off the Top at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. You can hang with me live on Zoom, camera, and microphone on if you like. Get a ticket at benglebe.com or wearenowherestudios.com as well. It's going to be a very fun, all improvised, interactive show like none you've ever seen. So please do join me for that if you'd like, this coming Sunday, the 25th, I think, of August. The limited edition fragrance launching just in time for football season is priced at $8. Thank God it's accessible because I need this in my life. A 30 milliliter bottle promises to capture the irresistibly rich and creamy essence of mayo. Why do we exist? This is probably becoming more and more clear we're living in a simulation, isn't it? From the website where you can actually buy this abomination, they say, Will Levis No. 8 Parfum de Mayonnaise opens with a bright burst of tart lemon that provides a refreshing and clean introduction. At the heart of the fragrance is a creamy, daring mayonnaise accord, offering a smooth and complex heart. Parsley adds a fresh herbal element, reminiscent of a well-prepared dish. And of course, this fragrance would not be complete without subtle coffee undertones. A sensual musk base weaves through the composition, evoking physicality and charisma. Finally, we finish off with a comforting, creamy vanilla finish that is equal parts inviting and intriguing. If you want a comforting, creamy vanilla finish, just use salmon sperm. We gave you that option early in the podcast. You could have just done that. And lastly, a dating app you can only use on Thursdays has expanded to San Francisco. It's a dating app. I guess it's launching city by city. You can only use it on Thursdays. I suppose the point is to avoid people endlessly scrolling. And I think this is nice. This kind of puts a cap on the amount of rejection you can get. It's nice to not match with people only on one day of the week. It really opens up a lot of the rest of the week to not match with others, both in person and on other dating apps. And that I really think is the dream that we're all trying to cultivate in this life, is to find different ways to schedule in not finding the person we're trying to find romantically in sometimes restrictive ways to kind of give us a lesson about limits in life and not having it all even when trying to have it all, and not finding it all and doing our best to do our best and having computers tell us, enough, buddy, no more looking for love until next week. It's a great idea, I assume, if I understood it, and I don't want to, and I don't care. But I do wish all of you find exactly what you're looking for during this coming week of life. I'm Ben Glebe. Until last week, next week, this has been Last Week on Earth.